Welcome to In the Middle. I'm Vicky. I'm a wife, a mom, and a leader shaping some of the world's most beloved brands. This is the podcast for all of us figuring it out in real time. In 20 minutes or less, let's get in the middle of it all. I'm so glad you're here. Hi, y'all. Welcome to In the Middle. I am Vicky. I'm a wife, a mom, a leader shaping some of the world's most beloved brands. This is the podcast for all of us figuring it out in real time, from navigating new jobs to managing your family. And since this is our very first time together on the podcast, I thought I'd start with my origin story. So, what I'm hoping to share today is made the decision to go first when there wasn't a roadmap laid for me, being okay with reinventing myself, and ultimately betting on myself, even when I was totally afraid to do it, like today. I'm betting on myself big time by launching this podcast. And so I'm hoping that in this journey together, we can share ideas and we can grow together as we navigate being in the middle. All right, so my story. I was the first in my immediate family to go to college, Fayetteville State, attitude check, Bronco Pride. And I went and got my degree in English and poli-sci. And I was dead set on being a sports and entertainment attorney. That is what I wanted to do as a child. I'm sure if I asked my mom and dad to look through the old files that they keep on their kids, there's probably a paper from third or fourth grade where I wrote, I'm going to be the first female Johnny Cochran. I sure did. I sure did. So I was pretty set on being an attorney for a vast majority of my life. And so after I graduated college, I started working for a small tech company in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I was essentially like an executive assistant. I supported our leadership team and our HR department and helped out in the office with a bunch of administrative tasks. I worked with an incredible leader who I still today consider a mentor, Noreen Allen, shout out to you. And she exposed me to the world of marketing. And it felt natural. It felt like something I had a gift in. I knew I was a pretty good writer. I felt creative, but not in the sense of like being a maker. And I've always thought I was a pretty good storyteller. And marketing lended itself to that in such a unique way. This is a part of like when you have to go first. It's not like I saw my parents in corporate careers. My mom, who recently retired, was a preschool teacher, and my dad drove trucks for a living and worked for a local dairy company. And so I wasn't really exposed to marketing as a career path, more so as a consumer. And so I will forever be grateful for Noreen betting on a young woman who had some curiosity, because it really did stop me in my tracks and say, this thing is really interesting to me. And it made me want to explore what a career could be like in marketing. And I vividly remember being in the office one day studying for the LSAT. I would go into the office, work my full day, and there was a conference room right behind my desk. And I'd go into that conference room at 5:30 and I'd study for the LSAT from 5:30 to 9. And I just remember studying and just saying like, I mean, I could go to law school at any point in my life, but I would not be able to be a marketing intern at any point in my life. And I had this like very pivotal moment where I said, if I want to see what's going to happen here, now is the time to do it. And so I ultimately said, okay, let's see what a career in sports marketing could be like. It was still, I knew I wanted to work in sports, and that's how I started my career, but I wanted to see how I could marry sports and marketing together. And so I packed up my Ford Explorer with my two little doggies, Fendi and Cody. And I headed to York, Pennsylvania, where I worked for York Revolution, a minor league baseball team. I was in an area where I did not know a soul, completely different culture. I didn't live in the best area. The way it was marketed to me was it was a historic area. I have thoughts. But I wasn't making, I was an intern, so I wasn't making much of any money, but I never felt more alive and more sure that I was on the right path and that my career was headed in the right direction. And now, probably almost 15 years later now, I can say that that was the first real time where I betted on myself. And I'm so proud of baby Vicky for doing that because it really has been an incredible ride so far. So, yeah, it's like, how did I get here? How did I get to launching a podcast? And what does it mean to be in the middle? And for me, I am candidly, and my husband will tell you this. Hey, Emmanuel, thank you for supporting me. I love you, honey. Emmanuel will tell you I am a very black and white person. So being in the gray, being in the middle is not a dream state for me. But for me, what I am learning and discovering is that being in the middle is truly kind of acknowledging where you have been and then looking ahead to where you're going. But it's right there, that sort of tension between acknowledging the growth, acknowledging all that you have accomplished, but sort of feeling that fire in your belly that there is so much more to do. It doesn't necessarily mean that, like, oh, I need to have more kids or I need to travel to 10 more places. It isn't always about the up. Sometimes it's kind of going across and getting deeper expertise or growing deeper in your faith or whatever that journey is. But being in the middle is that gray tension point. And I am learning more and more how to appreciate that space and be content in being in the middle of something throughout my life, whether I am feeling like, oh, I'm full steam ahead in my marriage. My mothering side may be deep in the middle, and me and my little kiddo Jordy may be kind of trying to grow as she is growing into a young lady. And so I'm learning and I'm hoping to share with this community what it means to be in the middle and for us to kind of unpack this journey together. So, the reason I started in the middle was because I really felt like there weren't a lot of stories out there about the in between, whether that's in your marriage, your adult friendships, your career. I feel like we see a lot of success stories and big wins, fancy titles, the meticulously organized highlight reel on Instagram. And all of that is great, but if we aren't honest about that middle section of how you went from renting an apartment to owning a 6,000 square foot house, the sacrifices you made, the decisions you made, the resources, the things you learned, the things you had to sacrifice or do differently, the people you had to get connected to, I don't know that we're actually helping the next generation grow. And so my hope is that we start to have more honest conversations about being in the middle. For me, like, I knew my whole life I loved being a people leader. Like, I was team captain when I played volleyball, and I just was a natural born leader. And I know that that is a gift that God gave me. But what I didn't know, and I had to kind of figure out on my own, is that sometimes you have to manage people differently. Everyone doesn't get the same sort of management style in the same way that when you're raising children, one child needs something different than the other. And so I wish that I had leaders, as I saw them scale their careers, really spend time investing in my development as a people leader. And so I am hoping to create space where we can talk about that in between and really understand that, like, hey, you have to do it scared sometimes and you have to bet on yourself. But through that, being in the middle, you are building your faith, you're building your courage, you are becoming an even better version of yourself because you're navigating through that. And as I continue to be in the middle, and spoiler alert, I think we're going to always be in the middle of something, I want to share three truths that I am continuing to acknowledge and recognize, and to a certain degree, honor as I grow as a woman, a wife, a mom, a friend, a professional, a career person. That the first thing is you have to be willing to go first. Like I shared earlier, I was the first in my immediate family to go to college, but I was also one of the first in my career paths. I was one of the first people to work in social media. That is for those of you who I don't know, I'm imagining lots of friends and family hopefully are watching or listening. But for those of you who this is your first time meeting me, I've spent a large part of my career working in digital and social media, and oftentimes I was the first. And so it with that comes great reward as well as great risk because there isn't a blueprint laid out for you to follow behind someone else. And so, to a certain degree, I love being a builder and I love charting a path, but it can get lonely. And I don't know that people and leaders ahead of me really talked about that, especially as you continue to scale your career. It can get lonely the further up you go. So I think understanding that as you go first, in whatever capacity, you may be the very first person in your family to have a healthy marriage. And in that, there is loneliness. There can be some isolation because you are having to overcome a lot of maybe toxicity that you saw growing up. So, whatever it is, the thing that you're in the middle of, like going first is going to be hard, but someone who continues to walk through that first journey, it's so rewarding. So, that's my first truth. I'd say my second truth is you have to be willing to bet on yourself. And that is something that I am so proud of myself for doing because it would have been much easier for me to settle into a really unassuming job and, make okay money and just kind of go with the flow. But I knew that God had put something in me very special, and I'm believing He has placed certain things in you as well that makes you very special. He's calling you out to do things in your career and in your areas of life that you feel like you're in the middle of. And so making the decision to say, I know there's greater out there for me. I know that there is more for me to do and for me to contribute, and trusting that I have everything that I need to do those things and be successful. Yeah, it's you got to bet on yourself. No one else is coming to save you. And I'm learning that more and more is that if I want something to happen, I have to make those things happen. So I'd encourage you to bet on yourself today. If you're feeling a little, I don't know, do I have it? Is it the perfect time? There's never a perfect time. Can I tell y'all? The Lord gave me this podcast in 2023, and I sat on it for almost 2 years, making the excuses of why the timing wasn't right. Oh, I'm starting this new job. Oh, I'm transitioning from this job. Oh, my daughter is starting school. Like there was always something. And I would tell you right now is not the perfect time for me to start it, but I finally just made the decision, one, to bet on myself and that this is something that I know that I'm called to do and called to share. Even if it's just one person that watches or listens to this thing, I know that I'm doing this for a purpose. And so I am being obedient and I am making the decision to again bet on myself and to do it scared. So I hope that that encourages you as well. And my third and final truth is that you have to be willing to start over, even if it doesn't make sense to anyone else around you, or maybe even you. Maybe you are struggling with the belief that starting over is the right thing to do. I'm not sure what you're navigating today. I don't know if it's career, I don't know if it's family, I don't know if it's friendships, but starting over can be the best thing for you. You have to be decisive. You have to be clear in the purpose and your goals in starting over. But there are times where we can hang on to an old season way too long and you feel the push to go, but there is that comfortability you don't want to let go of going into the unknown. But I've learned that starting over, and even in my family, and I'll unpack maybe my current day story some point in this season of the podcast. But my family and I moved to Seattle, Washington. I got a new job with Starbucks, and we truly started over. We had a great life, a great community in North Carolina, but this role for me was a dream role. And I knew it was time to go. So we packed up our home. We eventually sold our home. Our daughter started a new school. My husband, thankfully, his job transferred him out, so he stayed with the same organization. And even in that, it's like the way the Lord orchestrated this for us, there was no lack in this process. Everything lined up exactly the way that it needed to for us to feel like, yep, starting over, starting this new journey, this new season of our life was exactly what we were supposed to do. It was encouraging. And so I would just say that if there is something that you're like, oh my gosh, I may have to take a step down to go up and it won't look right to people. I was a director and now I have to go back to being a senior manager or an assistant manager, whatever it is, don't be so hung up on this stair step growth. I remember years ago I read Lean In, and Sheryl Sandberg shared that the career journey is not a ladder. Sometimes it's a jungle gym. And that thing freed me so much because as a type A career climber, until that point of reading that, I really thought it just had to be step, 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 step. But once I realized that sometimes you have to go across, sometimes you have to go down, and we can apply that to just about any area of our life, even if you're in the middle of your faith walk. Sometimes you have to unlearn certain things that you grew up with if you grew up in ministry to get to that next level. So being willing to start over is a truth that I continue to learn and grow in and maybe welcome. So every time I have navigated one of these three truths, it can feel really hard in the middle of it, right? It can feel like, oh, am I making the right decision? But I have never been failed that once I made it through either going first, betting on myself, starting over, when I get to the other side of it, I can look back and see how much I've grown as a person, how much my faith has grown, my confidence has grown, just my trust in my gut, how much I grew in that journey. And that is ultimately why I'm so passionate about us creating this space to talk about being in the middle. We can be in this rat race where we are just trying to go, 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 and we don't take a beat to stop and reflect on how much we've grown, and we should, and I want to do a better job of that. And I think when we take a pulse to say, wow, look at how far I've come, it makes it that much easier to do the next hard thing that comes your way. So friends, this isn't just a podcast where Vicky talks. This is also an opportunity for us to take stock and reflect. And I have a few questions maybe for you to consider today. Where in your life are you maybe questioning if you should take the next step or if you should shift in some way or another? Or maybe you are strongly considering starting over. What's keeping you from doing that? Maybe, just maybe, consider this podcast as a sign to just start, to bet on yourself. I promise you, whatever decision you make, if you are courageous, you are informed, you are intentional, the growth you'll experience getting to the other side of it will be worth it. You are in the right spot. We're going to walk this thing out together. And I just want to say in advance that I'm proud of you for being the first, for betting on yourself, and for being courageous enough to start over. And I'd love to hear what you're taking on. So, friends, I want to know what you're in the middle of. Like, truly, please send me a DM. I want to know, share your stories. Some of them I will use on this podcast if you're comfortable with me sharing, but I am really invested in how we're all growing together. What are the strategies we're all using? This is cyclical, y'all. I am not just doing this. I am hoping to also receive some really helpful tips to continue to navigate being in the middle. Y'all, I just recorded my first episode and I am so proud of myself.
I am not going to cry, but I am really proud of myself. And I hope that y'all hear my heart when I say that this truly is a bet on myself moment, because I know that I didn't have to, but it stirred my spirit so much to do it. And I felt so compelled to do it. And I am honestly really proud of myself. And I look forward to seeing y'all here again next week. We are going to unpack owning your career. So I think it's going to be another really good discussion. If you found this podcast helpful, please like it, subscribe, share it with a friend, share it with a coworker, colleague, your auntie, whoever. I really hope that this will be a nice community where we can all grow together. And I'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks for listening to In the Middle. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend and click subscribe so you never miss an honest conversation about life in the middle. I'll see you next time.